What I'd like to do is handle the speakers that aren't close enough to the podium so that they can be taped during the Q&A. What I'll do is I'll ask for questions, ask the speaker or speakers to come up to answer that, and then I'll ask them to repeat the question when they're at the podium. So there's been plenty of opportunity to think about your questions. Who'd like to ask the first question? Okay, Brian. Brian Federici? What's the question?
So I have a bug question.
He has a bug question.
It's Jeff Ellis, from the Gates Foundation. I didn't see anywhere in your talk. I've been looking at some of the in India, for instance, some BT cotton in Brazil, even for small farmers. Some of there's some papers coming out showing there's definitely an economic advantage to growing these controversial as they are these GMO crops. So I'm wondering for small farmers in Africa, because there's so much resistance from the Europeans, and this comes up a lot. In other words, why should we use this in Africa if the European countries don't want GMOs, even though they're growing in the United States? So how does the Gates Foundation look at that? You didn't mention GMOs when you talked at all, but I think there's a lot of economic data coming out now that they're actually very beneficial to small farmers.
Okay, so Dr. Ehlers will come up, repeat the question succinctly, and answer it.
I'm sorry.
I guess there was maybe two parts. One was about the Gates philosophy on GMOs, and the second is what are we doing around the GMO cotton or the introduction of GMOs?
Well, even into the grains,
Yeah.
let's say you have
Yep.
significant, animal.
Okay, I think it is sort of one question then. Yeah. So we are supporting GMO technologies in cassava, actually in cowpea. We have well, we're not supporting it directly, but we're indirectly supporting some of the work with BT cowpea that Monsanto actually has donated the technology to an organization, and USAID is funding development of that product. And they're actually in 3 years of testing in three West African countries, and probably will be released in 2017, 2018. We might help, for example, with seed systems, getting that actually into the hands of farmers and so on. So we're also helping with the general regulatory frameworks within these countries so that they will be ready to accept GMOs, for example. I think right now our portfolio is about 6% GMO related. We are we're agnostic to the technology, and we're about each event being evaluated on its own merits, I guess is the way you'd say it. Yep, thanks.
Okay, other questions?
Yeah, well, just right there. You mentioned several of these smaller specialty crops, legumes like pigeon pea and some of the other things. And you and I had discussions about these things when we were here, and they're really fascinating and all that. The problem is getting something like that funded to be able to actually work with them. And yeah, it would be good crops for California, and it'd be great things for us to work on, but I'm not sure how you get that funded.
Yeah, the question is when you have these small crops where there's really no industry behind them, how do you get them funded? Some of the things like I talked about, the pigeon peas, the novel yard-long beans and cowpeas and so on. And this is Milt brings up the exact problem that I was facing all along, and that is you're basically doing what you can on a kind of a shoestring budget, and you're kind of hopeful somebody will eventually see it and take it up. I think now with our technology people maybe out doing more outreach, some of these things can be put together. But from the actual research point of view, we kind of just had to do it on the side with our existing resources and kind of scrape it by. I wish there was a more formal, maybe like a new crops initiative. I think something like that would be really, really great.
Seriously, some of your technology people, who do you mean with our technology people?
The new fellow they hired, and I've forgotten his name, I'm sorry. Jim, yeah. So someone like Jim could make the linkages with industry, for example, and industry might in kind fund some things. They might have a few dollars here and there, but for funding a basic research program, probably it would require some more dollars because it's a high risk thing for a company to do for the first 5 or 10 years. So I mean, I always thought the UC should fund a new crops initiative for California because we have the climate, the interest, the food industries. It'd be a fantastic thing.
And it's one thing growers always ask us for.
Yeah. Well, in my experience, there's a lot of the growers. There's two kinds of growers. You can find those that are quite welcoming to new things, and some that just want to keep doing what they're doing. So, yeah, it's a matter of finding the right individual. Yeah, Mike.
A number of years ago,
Oh, I have to go different. Okay. Well, a number of years ago, UC did, this is education for a minute. The UC did have a program where they funded new. I got to go over here. A number of years ago, UC did have a program where A&R would fund new crop proposals. That lasted, I haven't a clear idea, maybe 5 to 7 years, somewhere around that long. And it went away when in one of the many eras of major budget cuts. And I guess it hasn't come back, but I think it'd be worth thinking about because it is something that almost no one else can do. It is pretty difficult to get private money to support some kind of project like that. And yet, we do see a lot of examples of things that are either new crops or at least new for California that have been very successful, like blueberries. When I came to Riverside, nobody imagined that there would ever be a blueberry industry in California. So there are a lot of opportunities, and they can be quite successful.
Just leave it up there.
Yeah.
You
should tape it on there or something.
So, looking at what we're interested in at the foundation, we've met a lot of groups. Two of our goals, two things are happening. One is we have to feed the world by 9.5 billion people by 2050. But the second is that the USDA new dietary guidelines are going to come out. And so we're interested in funding research areas on products and that are typically not funded in other places. So one area that we have a lot of interest in is aquaculture, because if you're going to feed the world, it's not likely to be from red meat. So aquaculture is one area. And another area that's traditionally underfunded are plants that are high in protein that are nitrogen fixers. So I will just not mention what they are, but that's another area that we are very interested in. And so likely we are going to have a program in something that you would be interested in.
Okay. If you want to call it up, just tell me what it is, and I will repeat the question. Then we'll get the
not a question,
comment.
More of a comment.
Then come on up if you're going to make a comment. I don't want to edit your comment.
Thank you. Not a question, but more of a comment in response to the area of aquaculture. I was just down in San Diego a couple days ago for a conference, and we did a farm tour. And this is an emerging area looking at growing food in a small space where you're raising fish, aquaculture. The fish could be, of course, a source of protein, but also the byproducts that the fish poop out into the water, then extracting that and it becoming a nutrient source to plant to grow foods in hydroponic systems. And so this is an area that's developing, research and production is developing in other countries in the Middle East, but we're not really seeing that here in the United States, and I really see that as an area for tremendous growth and opportunity. So just a comment. And we're seeing a couple of places in San Diego that are investing in this type of technology.
So there's a lot of interest, just biologically, basic science and aquaculture. But just to bring this point back, in the next week or two, there's going to be an expansion of the area in the Gulf where aquaculture is going to be able to be done. So with that, there's going to be a lot of things, both environmentally and figuring out how we can expand aquaculture, what kind of species we're using, what it's going to take to raise those species, what are we going to do with the waste, all of those kind of things. So it's a very interesting area. It is bound to explode here, I think, in the country, but we have to really have a strong scientific base to bring aquaculture up on the same level as other animal products. So.
And I just want to respond real quick to the comment about red meat, because again, red meat is an easy target. And if you're looking at how we raise meat in this country, feeding corn to ruminants in condensed feedlots, yeah, that's a problem. It's got a problem on many, many, many levels. But when we look at the planet as a whole, we need to not lose sight of the fact that about 50+% of the land mass of the entire planet can and only should ever be harvested via ruminants grazing. It's land that is not capable of being plowed or cultivated, and I'm not talking about burning rainforest for this. I'm talking about appropriate ecosystems that can and should have grazing pressure. The point is, we need to not be taking things willy-nilly off the table. We need to be looking at how they should be managed sustainably for the long run and how they fit into the overall picture.
And I totally agree, and I didn't mean to imply that we were trying to reduce production of red meat. In fact, as we're going to feed the world, production of red meat is going to have to go up too. It's just that it can't be the only alternative. There just will not simply be enough production in animal red meat to provide all the protein sources for food for the 9.5 billion people. Absolutely, I agree with you totally. We have a whole program on animals. It's a large piece of what you've suggested as a way to best manage animals and to best manage our ecosystems that also include animals as well. So it's important.
Okay, why don't you come up and okay, Heather first, and then.
I think my question is a little bit maybe a policy question. It's to Dr. Evans. Maybe a policy, maybe a political.
Need a mic or?
Okay. Yeah, if you could go to the microphone, it'll help. Don't be shy. Big Sam, then you don't have to.
I think my question is maybe a little bit, it touches politics and it touches also policy in these underdeveloped countries, for instance, Africa. When we talk about sustainability and increasing productivity and varietal changes and things like that, I think I see the main problem, my understanding, especially where I came from Ethiopia, is a water irrigation problem. Until we solve that situation, regardless of how we are going to be changing whether this crop or the other crop, I don't think we're going to make much of a difference in that region. So my question to you is, how does the Bill Gates Foundation entertain this aspect of technology or development in those areas?
That's a very good question, and we've actually taken irrigation off of our investment areas over the last 5 or 6 years, and I think it's because for most smallholder farmers, either they don't have the capital, if they do have the water resource, which is not always available, they don't have the capital to put in the irrigation systems, and actually the commodity prices of the things they're growing, it really economically doesn't work for them to invest in irrigation, in a lot of places. So, we've chosen not to invest heavily in irrigation at this time. And there are a lot of others. So we're a very small part of the global investors into African development, and so there's certainly room for many others, the World Bank and other organizations, to do that kind of work. So we're not trying to do everything for everybody. We kind of choose our battles, and that was one that we didn't choose.
Hi, so this question is regarding, you had said that the CAFÉ program was developing infrastructure. And I had a good question. Now, what opportunities are out there that undergraduate students and graduate students can do with the CAFÉ program, and in what disciplines?
I guess that question was for me. So CAFÉ is still very much in its formative stages, but one of the things that we need right away would be to have somebody, an undergraduate volunteer, to be on our board. So he's taking advantage of the situation. So if an undergraduate were to email me and said, I have an interest in being on the board, that'd be great, because we need to be able to reach the undergraduates. I see that the undergraduates and graduates are a very key component of CAFÉ in that they're the ones who are really contemplating the future, the very cross-disciplinary sort of talent that's necessary to solve the problems that Dr. Humiston is talking about largely doesn't exist because we've gone through an era of people becoming more and more specialists. I'm sort of an exception that as I've gotten older and older, I get more interested in everything else. So having undergraduates and graduates start signing up for CAFÉ is good. We're going to have the workshops in February, so I'd like to have some representation of undergraduates and graduates at the workshop. We've had discussions on the board, and Emeritus Dean Holt has said that she'd be interested in working towards building a new curriculum. And so we've tossed around terms agricultural leadership, but masters in multidisciplinary agriculture. But really, there's a need for the sort of cross-training of people who are going to know something about engineering, something about policy, something about biology, to really become the leaders in agriculture in the broad sense for the next generation. So Jody Holt has been excited about that, and I know that Dr. Humiston is also excited about that, so I hope they get a chance to talk about that before the day's over. So yes, it's very important. We're going to, so with the participate, and I know the graduate students now are getting organized, and they're going to set a really good example for the undergrads. So I would suggest that there could be some cross-linkage between grad students providing leadership, recruiting a few more undergrads into their umbrella, but mostly my vision is that we're the CAFÉ is a catalyst, and we want to see the membership make things happen. People have repeatedly come back to me and said, tell us what to do. And I mean, that's just not my style. And if it was, we wouldn't be sitting here now because the initiative would have collapsed. So I'd like to solicit another question. Okay, Francie.
Thing that maybe could be done as a follow-up, that maybe a simple thing that could be done is that there are some of these undergraduate summer research fellowships, the $500 or $1,000. If some of a lot of them are ag-based coming out of CNAS, but if some of those could be identified as for faculty and therefore students having a CAFÉ-related project, that would be a cheap and easy way to start getting some undergrads interested in research in that way. I'm not quite sure the mechanism, but
We've got two more answers to that question. Okay. And I'm going to try as well.
And I'm going to answer too.
Lots of answers. That's good. Well, the one thing I just wanted to add, and particularly to your grad students here, I just learned recently that on the UC Berkeley campus, some of the grad students on their own, and they did this on their own, no support from administration until recently, formed a new group called Grad Students in Extension because they're feeling like not all grad students want to do academic track, or if they do, they want to be more in the mission-oriented research, and they want to be out in the field and doing cooperative extension type activities and cooperative extension specialists. So that's something, your students here on the Riverside campus might want to think about. I don't have a lot of detail. I just know they're there, and it seems like a really cool idea. It's something their dean is now quite supportive of. They're having a showcase on November 19th that I'm going to go to so I can learn more about what they're doing. But I know they're looking at us helping them have some internship opportunities with cooperative extension and perhaps even our research extension centers. And I don't know how we're going to do that yet, but it is something that is on my radar and something that's on a priority list.
My turn to answer. Yes. So first, for the student here, CAFÉ is going to set up a lot of infrastructure for setting up internships and things like that. But the best way to get started in research with a faculty member is there's someone who said something that interested you today. Just go up to them and say, hey, that's interesting, I'd like to work with you. And usually the money flows and finds a way to figure that out. So if someone on the other side of the room said something that you'd like to pursue, go chat with them. Oh, sorry. Okay. Second, for the faculty here, USDA actually has a program to go out for extra funding for undergraduates, particularly at minority-serving institutions such as ours, and that can actually be in extension as well. So let me see if one of the things CAFÉ can do is help me twist arms to get faculty to apply for such grants, or encourage or entice, carrots or sticks, whichever works.
Okay, thanks, Mike, for offering actually doing the carrot and stick thing right now in front of the people. Okay, so also I would like to add that annually there are a number of smallish awards that have been endowed for students who work in the area of agriculture on our campus, that some professor a long time ago made a little endowment, and it's grown, and it's $500, or it's $1,000, or it's $2,000. But these, if I'm not mistaken, and it's not a lot. It's like 10 different awards or something. But if I'm not mistaken, most of those don't go filled every year. About maybe half of them go filled. So one of the things that CAFÉ is going to do is, when there's the call for nominations for students to get those awards, it's going to go out onto the CAFÉ listserv. And some of those are for graduate students too, and it's generally just cash money that you put in your pocket, and then you got something to write on your CV. I mean, like what's wrong with applying for that, right? So, I know I could have used it when I was a grad student. So, we want these awards to be given. We want to recognize you for your agricultural-oriented research. We want to actually see a competition for these funds, and it's basically good for everybody involved. And with the recognition that those funds are being spent, more people will be donating to those kinds of awards. Everybody, I think almost everybody wants to have their own name on something at some time in their life. So that would be my encouragement, that to keep an eye open, and if you don't hear about it, bother me and I'll track them down. Other questions? Okay, so if there are no other questions, I think what I would like to do is do the wrap-up first and then have a soft breakout because I know some people have some needs to leave, but I think at the same time I could tell by the coffee break that the discussions were being very fruitful. And rather than cap our breakout time, I'd like to just have it as an open breakout time. So let's have a brief conclusion then. I think to just wrap up the day, I think it has far exceeded my expectations, and a lot of people pulled me aside and said that this is really pretty awesome, and I do think it is pretty awesome. The speakers were all perfect. They were not only perfect, but a perfect combination of supporting each other in different ways, but also shining lights in different ways, and also filling in the gaps for each other. The audience was spot on with great questions. I think going around the room and exposing ourselves and the speakers to our breadth and depth sort of mind-blowing, because I doubt that you could get as diverse a group to come and sit down for lunch on any of the other UC campuses on the topic of agriculture and food. So that was very successful. I'd just like to ask the audience to briefly, if you've got any comments about what might work better next time, because I hope we could do this again maybe in a couple years and bring in maybe parts of the same dream team or maybe a new dream team. Any comments on how to do this better or any feedback on this was okay? Okay, so I'm hearing, yeah, how many people enjoyed this? Okay, good. Next time, okay, Jessica suggests, and I absolutely agree, we're going to have 2 microphones next time, and we're going to work out some sort of mobile videotaping, if we videotape it. Okay, Philippe.
Maybe some roundtable discussion with the invited speaker, which are more closed conversation.
Yeah, so more breakouts. Okay, and so yeah, and excellent idea, and I think maybe we would structure it in a slightly different way. Jeff?
Not related to this exact question, but what would be really helpful for me is if at the CAFÉ website, each of the CAFÉ members had a small paragraph of what they're interested in, because all of you introduced yourself, and I took some notes about,
okay.
This guy has expertise in this,
Right. So there's been a considerable missteps associated with the CAFÉ website, which is still a beta website and not available. I guess it's available to the public now. So I did send an email out to this effect, but I will invite you all right now to email Don Davidson and tell him that you want to be a CAFÉ scholar. That's all it takes. And then go to the website, cafe.ucr.edu, see how people have structured their CAFÉ scholar comments and submit them to Donald Davidson, and he will load them up. And if you don't see it loaded up soon, come back to me and I'll get a big stick. So yeah, the CAFÉ Scholar site is needs a lot of work, and you've just helped me considerably with that suggestion. Yes?
So Norm, I'm going to say why I suggested that. It's a selfish reason, and that is, I sometimes will come across new ideas or technologies, for example, a fertilizer that's encapsulated in a nanoparticle, and I don't know anything about nanoparticles. So if I had I would know, the CAFÉ is somewhere I can go to see if anybody there has any, expertise in that area,
right.
And I could engage them in a conversation. From their perspective, they might have an idea they want to sell me. So
absolutely. Okay, so right, just to record it, the suggestion is that it's mutually beneficial to have this sort of information, and I absolutely agree. And if you are actually interested in nanoparticles, I can put you in touch with a very new CAFÉ member who works on nanoparticles. Okay, so no, that's an excellent idea, and one of the things that I think we could, if we got some funding, would be to dedicate somebody to building the website and doing a proper inventory of CAFÉ members and getting them all on the website with maybe with some sort of access database so you could really search it out. Okay, Holly.
To that end, I sent Norm a form sort of trying to compile information for grad students doing any agricultural related research, and so we have this form that this has gone around our small group, but maybe the PIs can encourage your graduate students to fill out this form. That would be a good database for us to have as a starting place, and maybe that could be on the CAFÉ site eventually as well. So Norm can send out the link to the form, I guess, on the CAFÉ serve for that.
Right, so I've been spending 2 to 4 hours on CAFÉ on average for the last 2 years, and the website is just something that is sort of the bridge too far for me. Okay, so any other comments? Okay, then Dr. Humiston. Or do I call you Vice President?
Glenda works just
Thanks, Glenda.
I just wanted to say that I think you've done an amazing job today, and I think we all ought to give Norm anything.
Okay, thank you, Glenda. And with that, we wrap up, and I think we have the room till as late as like 4:15, so just mingle or leave or go to the bathroom or eat another tart or whatever. Okay, thanks a lot for coming, guys, and thanks for spending a long time.